So folks, Thursday night here at the Land Tamer stream. Appreciate you stopping by. Feel free to, hang out in the chat. I've got a couple little stream things that have happened, a little stream maintenance going on that I'll talk about in a minute. But the theme for tonight, awesome labbing tips from Study Buddy. That, of course, is none other than Show IP Interface Brief, Tony E. And I'll talk about some of that in a minute. In fact, we got the lab up. We're going to start to put into practice some of the things I learned from Mr. Awesome there. So yeah, stream maintenance, Google Drive deprecated. So it's gone. It's been sort of sitting out there. But everything is now on GitHub, except for one document, which I emptied the trash, and now I can't find it. But that's okay. I'll rebuild it. It's the stream lists. Hey, Casadix, regular in the chat here, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Had some good interaction with Casadix in Discord last night on something that he's checking out. So yeah, that's what the community's for. Helping each other out. Good to see you, man. Along with that, so I've actually, Google Drive is still there. But if you go there, it just says, go look here on GitHub to get everything. So I've been meaning to do that for a while. It took a little time today. Finally got tired of seeing it out of order. So we put it in order. And I've reordered the GitHub repo so that, let's see, the notes, yeah, it's actually right here. So yeah, I've made it a little easier to sort of navigate and updated some of the content here to make it a little more useful. And with that in mind, I've updated the commands. So you can, of course, click on and I'm talking about the Nightbot commands, which you can use in Discord or here on Twitch. They work, right? Nightbot, he's doing okay. He was down one day last week, I think. For a little while, and then he came back online. It happens from time to time. But yeah, I've added some, so they're in alphabetical order here. If you click on there, a couple of ones that I've added, there's quick links to like the flashcards, the Azure video, how to build, I get that question sometimes in chat, and now I can just click !Azure. How much does it cost? Well, there's a cost. Flashcards. More streams. This is one I have to fix. This goes nowhere right now, but I will get to that. Music notes, PCAP, cheat sheet. Also, what I did with some of these, like links, study links, is new. So since they're on GitHub, you can't, like, if you've tried to browse links on GitHub in real time versus, what you can do is view them raw. So if you use this raw, you can actually go right to the document as long as it's text and supported. So some of those links are up and running, and then Uptime, YouTube, things like that. Those are the main ones. And then I gave Dimitri his own button, and I tweeted about it. You definitely want to subscribe to this guy, or follow this guy at least. He streams on weekends, usually on Sundays at noon. So anyway, those are updated. Just a couple little maintenance, housekeeping things there. Also, one thing to highlight is I've been using these hashtags on Twitter to try to get some attention on all the problems with the number of the Cisco documents. And I actually got a response today. Let's see. Yeah. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, you may or may not know this, but I've been ranting Cisco doc reform now, Cisco docsrage. It's not just to be a pain in somebody's side. I'm hoping that these problems will get addressed and that they will help the community. So I didn't really know, was this document helpful? And I don't know, I just don't have a lot of trust in that. Like, does that just, I don't know. So what I did is I post on Twitter, I've been tagging Learning at Cisco, and today I got a response. This is, I've tweeted about this a number of times, but today, actually, I guess it prompted a response. Is thank you for bringing these to our attention. We have passed these along to the correct team to help fix the issue. So I was like, thank you. Kudos to the team for response. Appreciate these docs are near and dear to my heart. And they are. I'm not just trying to hate. I'm not being a hater. I love these documents and I use them all the time. So that was good to see. Hopefully we'll see some of those things fixed. I had some people on Router Gods 2 asking me, you know, about the link, if they've been able to find it, etc. So also video series. I know I've been talking about it hopefully this weekend. My goal is this weekend to get out 2 videos. I'll probably do one Saturday, one Sunday, and, you know, talk is talk, talk is cheap, time to do it. I have been thinking about it too. Like the reason I've been hesitating is because I've been changing my views. As I've let time pass, I think that's important. It's given me a little more perspective on things. Also, as I've finished, and the video series I'm talking about is how to pass the CCIE routing switching written exam. So I've actually written out an outline of all of my, you know, thoughts about my journey and what I recommend, etc. So, and I have some constructive feedback, I think, for those who make the exams. And that part about it, I've been kind of mulling over. You know, I want to make sure I'm being fair and objective. So anyway, lab tips. So this was about, you know, as many of you may know, if you've been watching the stream, certainly my friend IP Interface Brief, he's been watching as well, and he noticed that he proposed that we meet up and that he actually show me how he labs, and he's been labbing solid for like, you know, he passed the written back in July or June, so he's been labbing for 6+ months. That's his routine, and he's, of course, has become really good at it and efficient at it. And I'm not starting out, but I am starting out sort of in even G. And that's one thing I was thinking about the other day. You know, I'm not new to labbing every day. I've labbed every day prior to, you know, February last year. It was mainly viral. And right about that time, I did the lab software showdown, and I made the switch to full-time, you know, my number one labbing software being even G. Since then, though, I haven't really gone into a daily labbing routine with even G, so I'm still somewhat new to it. I haven't been labbing much in the last year, really. So it was great. We sat down. He happened to be in town anyway, and we had dinner. Great, you know, chat and, you know, melding of the minds, as he said on Discord. And he gave me some really good tips, and I am so grateful and appreciative of him taking the time to do that and to show me. And, you know, that's what this channel is all about. I mean, that's what any of the time that I take to do this is all about, you know. It takes not a lot of extra time. It takes a little extra time and resources to put out this content, but man, just the benefits I have gotten from meeting people like Tony and getting good advice, you know, some mentoring has been amazing. So I'm going to share some of that in a minute. Mark Milo, it was that video of yours that turned me away from GNS3 to even G. What a good video. Oh, thank you, man. I'm glad it helped. I want to keep an eye too. That's one thing, you know, I recently revised my trailer to my YouTube channel. And that's one thing I wanted to emphasize. I'm going to try to stay on top of the labbing software. That's kind of a little bit of what the channel has become about. And that's what I've been interacting with people on the viral dev team. I've been interacting with people on the even G team, of course. And yeah, I'm still using even G. I'm glad it helped. But, you know, things change, and I always want to, in this channel, any new version, I'm going to want to evaluate. I'm actually working with someone at Cisco on a potential future sort of stream that will be just kicking the tires on the next version of Viral. And, you know, I've been talking about that for a while. It looks like it might actually happen in February, early February. So stay tuned on that. That's the advantage of streaming, right? Is out of this, I've not only gained a labbing mentor here, but actually was able to meet up with him and gave me some very useful tips. So I'm going to go over that in a minute, and then we're going to tackle a little bit of multicast. But one thing that, Tony saw that I built this TF2P server and had some well, he basically showed me how he labs, and it's awesome. So essentially some of the features of EvenG that I have not been leveraging, just because of I haven't dug into it yet too much, right? But in Viral, what I used to do is, in Viral there was integration with the GUI, and the Viral, it was a tool called I forget, but the graphical tool, you could use a web browser also, and I used a web browser actually with Viral. But what you could do is there was a repo, so you could create a repo, link it, and then there's a repo for INE topologies for Viral, and all you had to really do is click on the folder, select the file, and it would load that into your lab. Like, it was just basically point and click, so you could have all the configurations. I don't have that here in EvenG out of the box, quote unquote, but Tony showed me how to basically do the same thing and how to quickly, get through labs, even when you have to change topologies. So one element of that is, instead of that he introduced to me, and I wasn't sure you could do this at EvenG, but he showed me that you can, and that is that you can create, you can work with a single set. I'm actually going to stop these nodes. No, I think I have to have them up and running. So what you can do, you have a node editor. So as long as you have the startup configs here, I need to turn these on. That this is a better way of editing your configs than the copy-paste struggle I've been working with, as you all have seen. So now I can come here, I could click on router 1, and I can edit it here, right? So this is really the way to go. And then what you do, and my thinking was, well, that's true, but on EvenG Community Edition, you can only have a single set of configs that you can use for startup configs, and that is true. However, the other thing that you can do here, and the advantage of EvenG, is being able to come in here and you can close the lab and you can just clone it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a base lab, which is going to be a little different from EvenG's. And then from then on out, I'm going to, not EvenG's, from INE's. And then, like some of the things, like if, I have all the files for INE configurations running on iOS V images. So there's a post down here, of course, in the links. And someone went through and took the time to take all the INE configurations, which are public, of course. In fact, they're public here, the diagrams and the files on GitHub. But someone took the time, this blogger, and updated them for each image type. And what I mean by that, of course, is if you use, IOL, they use interfaces with different, they use different types of interfaces called Ethernet. And if you use like what the original INE files use, they're gigabit Ethernet, like, or some of them even say fast Ethernet, 0 or 1. But when you're using the iOS V images, it has a module number / card number / so it's GI001, right? Or actually it's GI00, GI01. That can be very annoying and time consuming. So this blogger actually has a download that will get you all of them based on your type. So I have here, I went ahead and put in my TFP server repo. This is the Advanced Technology Labs, right? And right now I'm doing initial multicast. Okay, there you go, Mark Milo. Hope this helps. So yeah, now this is great. This has most of what I want, but there are a couple of things that I did different from like my base config. So I want to just do a slight modification to that. Let me see what they are actually. So there's just some, like I added an IP host for the TFTP server. What else did I do? Okay, I've got no IP domain lookup. What is this? So that it has that already. What else did I do different? You know, that may be it. I may not need a base after all. I did control plane host. I don't really need that actually. And exec timeout. Oh, logging synchronous. Nope, that's there too. Yeah, that's here. Exec timeout. These may seem like simple things, but they're actually pretty important. The login. Okay, I may not need a base then. All right, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and update the lab to using this method. And it should be the same or pretty close, but let me check on these interfaces, make sure I got the right ones. Yeah, GS01. So there we go. You know what I should do actually is do the base IP addressing. I should start with that one. So yeah, that's going to be the one like that I tend to copy to. Well, that won't really be important either because each of these already has the addressing, doesn't it? So yeah, that's not even important. All right, so we're going to do this one through. First of all, this eliminates our problems with copy paste. Casadus, which LT, hey Lantern, which version of Eve are you using? I should be using the latest, but let's make sure. I got a shortcut now that goes right to my lab. I believe it's on status page 20392. Oh, wait a second. Eve and G community. Yeah, that's true, because my pro version on this PC is always up to date, like usually to the day. 20395. Okay, so I'm a little behind. I should upgrade. Yeah, let's do that first. Good point, Casadix. So let me finish this and then we'll do a quick upgrade and restart. Too many windows, did not want to open ZTerm. Sorry guys, I need to turn on the fan. It's warm here in Florida. This morning it was chilly. But it has warmed up for sure, which is great. Did Tony mention anything about not having the startup config option turned on when you're turning on the nodes if you are attempting to continue a previous lab? If I recall correctly, I ran into the issue that the startup configs would take precedence. Not sure if anyone else had that issue. Yes. Yeah, it goes down from 80 to 45 at night. It has been crazy here. I don't know if he mentioned that. So what you're saying is with this selected as on, that if I shut down the lab and bring it back up, that it is going to use the startup configs configured here. If I turn this off, then what it's going to do is when I shut down the lab and I bring it back up, it's basically going to, well, let's say I do a write mem on all routers and then I shut down the lab. When I bring it back up next time, it should boot to those configs. That makes sense. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to be aware of that the first time I'm in that scenario. The main thing he mentioned, though, is that oftentimes when you're doing labs, is you're typically in the same, you're using the same topology. Like if you're in BGP, right? It's not too often that you're going to switch topologies. Now, there's some sections of the workbook where it seems like every other lab was a different, like, topology, you know, different configuration files. But this thing was like, if you're in multicast, you build a multicast startup configs and like initial multicast, you know, you save that as a separate EVE-NG topology. Then you load that up, and then, you know, you just shut it down or bring it back up. That's what another thing he said is, instead of clearing out your configs, it's faster typically to just shut down all the routers and then bring them back up. That has been my experience, but again, I've not heard anyone else talk about it, so I'm not sure if it's user error, how it's supposed to work. We will find out, Mark Milo, for sure, because we're going to be doing a lot of labs this way. I ran into the issue when I was cloning CCNP labs and made minor changes, but noticed that they did not keep and ended up turning off the startup config after loading the nodes for the first time. Gotcha. Well, it would make sense because this is an option. This can be on or off. When I came in here, it was off, which means that, you know, because you have this whole function of exporting configs, right? You do have to do that as well, by the way. So I think the way it goes is this. For your startup configs in EVE-NG Community Edition, and probably the Pro, I'll just say EVE-NG. Yeah, let's assume you start with no configuration. You get the startup macro, right? And you usually select no. You create a new lab with new configurations. You do write mem. All right, here's what happened. If you do write mem, and you probably know this already, Marmilo. If you do write mem and you shut down the lab and you bring it back up, it's going to go back to here. No configuration, because in EVE-NG, after you write mem, what do you have to do? You have to export configs. What that does is it actually saves, you've probably seen this happen, right? Like whenever you do an export, is it actually like screen scrapes the router. Sometimes you can actually see it happening. It'll screen scrape the config like a show run, and then it copies that to the Eve configuration file. Yes, exactly. So, and something Tony showed me last night is that you can actually, because those files are UNL files, it looked like binary to me. So if I go to one of my repos where I have like backup configurations of my UNL files, actually that is a private repo. It is here. You know, let's take one of my big, let's take one of the big ones. Where did I put that? Oh yeah, okay, that is on the shared. Mentors, sup fam, good to see you guys. We're planning some EvenG labs. Awesome, dude. You plotting out your conquest? Okay, those are exports. I have a repo where I keep, like, sometimes I'll take an extra step to do an export of the lab because I'm moving between servers, right? And that's kind of a fallback method. But you have these UNL files, right? Here's router collage, which is huge. I just want this to go into VS Code here. So this is big. So you have, this is your lab configuration file. But you notice here at the bottom is you've got text IDs, object, this is like XML, right? But you also have down here, these are text objects. I have a lot of text objects. These are configurations for routers. And I thought, okay, this is probably just like binary stuff, but Tony saw it and he's like, oh, no, no, no. He's like, that looks like base 64 encoding. I guess because of this equal or a double equal, which is essentially ends up being filling, you know, you have a certain size and what's the term for that? I can't think of that at the moment. This is, yes, sir, much going on lately, and I'm short of time and funds to retake CCIE Lab, so I'll retake the written and try again. We'll definitely use your GitHub notes after my AWS cert next couple of months. Oh, so you're going for, gotcha, you're going to go for AWS, and you're, at some point, I guess, mentors, your written cert will expire. It expires 3 years after the first take, right? So you're going to just allow that to expire, retake the written, then go for the lab. I got you. It must be coming up soon, I would imagine. And I understand about the money, man. I saw it the other day. It was like $1,600. Plus travel, plus... How was the facility, mentors? I'm curious what you thought about, you know, the new Richardson location. There's got to be a way to convert base 64. I want to figure out how to convert base 64. Conversion. Let's see here. Visual Studio Code base 64 decode. There we go. Oh, there's probably an extension. I love the extensions in the marketplace. They're so good. We were talking about text editors too last night. There's so many free extensions for code. Decode. Here we go. Yeah, base 64 to string is what we want. Oh, it's a nice setup indeed, and hotels are real close, so you can walk if you choose. That's what Tony was saying, is that he was looking at the list. He was saying that there's a list, and that there's so many that if you have a rewards program, you're probably going to be able to use it. Whatever rewards program you have. I need to go back to that and see how to trigger it. Okay, Command-Shift-P, convert selection. Okay. See, isn't that cool, y'all? If you need to, Command-Shift-P, and you can run these commands. Convert selection. Oh, interesting. That didn't really... Oh, let me make sure I'm looking at... This could be a different type of object than what I'm thinking. But it's probably base 64 code. Yeah, these are the IDs of the routers. Is the configuration actually a different section? No, this is it. Prep about 3K after all is said and done with food logic. Yeah. Yeah, it's not cheap. I think what's happening here is I have some extra characters. Yeah, that's the problem, I think. Oh, maybe not. No, that's a single. So I need to take this out. Yeah, that's probably the issue. Padding is what he was saying the equal sign can be. It can be padding. And that's how you recognize it was base 64. There it is. So that's really cool. And he suggested, you know, it'd even be a good idea to ask, like if you have a huge lab, a UNL file with 70 routers in it, the most convenient thing would be able to just edit the file, the UNL file. And he was suggesting, you know, make a feature enhancement request to be able to edit the UNL file itself. You can still do that, of course, now, because all I have to do is take the configuration, convert it from base 64 to string, make my changes, then convert it, reverse, do the reverse, and then paste in the UNL file. I may play around with that if I get desperate enough. Right now, that won't be a problem though, because I'm still doing my own labs, right? I mean, INE labs. Also try to book a midweek exam. Worried over weekend flights and hotel rates were more. Ah, that's true. Sorry, all thumbs cheaper during weekend. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, Tony was saying, I think, and I looked the other day at the lab schedule for the first time, and I think I was noticing that the weekends had more seats. That is a very good suggestion. Okay, book your exam. I just wanted to see real quick. Yeah, so you go to your CCI tracker, book a lab. And Richardson, we could do Moscow. That would be cool. Mexico City. Interesting. So what are the places you can go? Bangalore, Beijing, Bogota, Brussels, Dubai, Eltham, I don't know where that is. Hong Kong, Johannesburg, Mexico City, Moscow, Richardson. The other day I was in here, I was looking for United States, which doesn't make sense because it's listing city names. But it took me a while to finally realize, Richardson. Okay, Sao Paulo, Shanghai, Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo, Toronto. Wow, there were more dates in here the other day. 2 seats out of 5. So I have to do this. Yeah. Wow, some of these seats have dried up, and notice all this is blackout dates. So you're ineligible to schedule this far out. Farthest out you can schedule is right now May 17th. So January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, 4 months out. That's the limit. And 2, 2, 4, 4. Looks like there are actually more seats available during the weekdays. Well, no, not necessarily. So it doesn't look like a lot of rhyme and reason, but that's a very good tip about saving money. Come to Sao Paulo, we host you. Oh, that would be awesome, dude. Come stay with a fellow, viewer and hang out. Also, never realized not everyone is taking RS Lab. I'm in a security candidate, which I found odd. Yeah, I guess they don't necessarily, now that it's virtual, they don't necessarily schedule all the same tracks for the same day. I've never heard of Richardson before until you mentioned it, lol. I'd probably be looking to select a country first as well. Yeah, you know, I've traveled to Dallas a few times for work, and no offense to anyone that lives in Dallas, but I haven't had the best like experiences there in terms of fun things. Like usually when I go for work in the evening, I'll try to find a fun place to eat or a fun activity. I have to stay over the weekend through the next week. I'll do fun things on the weekend. And it probably has to do with where I've worked at. You know, I've worked at just like a huge business area. Like there's all chains. There wasn't really any cool places to eat or hang out. So that was my experience in Dallas the last few times, but maybe it'd be different. Yes, Dallas is not Florida and the weather was cold. Okay, yeah, mentors. I'm sure you would be glad to be back, at least for that reason. So yeah, those are good things. I want to, continually keep that in mind, and as I get closer to realistically being able to do it, knowing what I want to do. All right, so there's router 1. Let's open these other routers, and we will get we're just going to go ahead and do multicast. And then we'll do upgrade, and then we'll start kicking around our first lab here. All right, where did I put those? I created a folder TFTP server. That is, and there's base, which turns out I'm really not going to need. So initial multicast. Okay, yeah, let's just work out of this folder. Actually, let's open, save that. Yeah, I think we got the point of this, right? That, you export the configs, saves it to the UNL file. And then if you go in and select startup configs, that basically means the next time you boot that lab or anytime you boot that lab, regardless of what you saved to the router, that it is always going to boot with those startup configs. 26-shooter lab is a must to play as well, LAN. You can't get up and running quickly when you just want to test a protocol or technology. Right. Well, I'll catch you later, and I will catch the rest of your stream when it posts. Have some minor things to take care of. We're getting back to another hours of hitting the books. You all have a good evening. Thank you for checking in, Mark Milo. Good to see you again here, and good luck on your good bits, and good luck on your book studies. I'm just going to open all these. I don't know. It still wants to sometimes default over there. So did it open them all? It did. And that's the other cool thing about Visual Studio Code is you can open a folder instead of opening just a file. All right, so let's get cracking on this. I'm going to minimize this window now and pull it over here. Save. Save. And as you can see, this is only going to take a minute. And this is fast. I do like this method. I'm glad he showed it to me. Especially after all the pains I went through with copy paste. It says I take a snapshot of my VMware workstation and my configs do not save an even G. All will nugget. Oh yeah, that's true. I can do that in Azure too, actually. Come to think of it, I have taken backups before in Azure when I thought, like before an upgrade, just in case, you know, or when working with a big like 70 router lab and I wanted to try to export or import or play with it, I was like, let me do, and Azure will also do like a snapshot. You of course have to have done your, actually in Azure, you have to have done your first backup first, like completed a full backup. Then after that, you can just take a snapshot. But yeah, that's a great idea, mentors. Very good call. Okay, so I just saved that, and then all I do is, so I'm not going to export configs or anything else. I'm just going to close the lab. Oh yeah, we're just going to power everything down. And I'm going to connect to the lab here and perform this upgrade. And let's do a snapshot. Now capture is something different. Yeah, that's a different function. Okay, when was this? Oh, I have backups turned on already. I didn't know that I did. So I've crash consistent here, file system consistent. It's no wonder because I've been, my credits have been going down like more than normal, and I didn't realize I was doing backups for this. Yeah, take a snapshot. Once the snapshot is done, I will start the upgrade process. Good nuggets, man. So many good nuggets from the community. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to actually rename this, and this will be initial multicast. Oh, it doesn't like the period. It doesn't. Can we use a different character? There we go. And then I'm going to create a, I've restructured here, like all the labs I did for the written, I've moved those into their own folder. So I'm going to create a new folder. Oh, I have to do it this way. That's right. Ouch, live and learn. Not too familiar with Azure yet. Probably need to learn. Well, if you're doing AWS, man, that's a great, that's a hot shirt right now. I already know that I don't know. I don't want to have an opinion yet on the cloud certifications. I'm curious to hear what people think of them in terms of difficulty, etc. Like in comparison to Cisco exams. So we're going to create INE. Good deal. And all right, so that's done. This is in progress. I don't actually know how long this takes. Job details. Yeah, that's one thing you don't really get a whole lot of visibility here. it puts it in a vault. All right, we'll just we'll let that run. We'll upgrade later. Let's go ahead and load this lab up. All right, so lab is also a good idea to create a GNS3 IE lab topology just in case your main computer goes down, yet you are using cloud, so you're good. Well, that's true, but there was one day before the written where I had my internet went down. I was like, oh man, this is like 36 hours before I was scheduled to go in for the written. And I was like, they better get the internet back up soon, or I'm going to a coffee shop, because, you know, I have a lot of materials. Unfortunately, with GitHub, you know, you have a local clone. So I had a lot of stuff on my hard drive, but yeah, I do have GNS3 in my Eve Pro Edition. I do have a backup GNS3, and I keep it updated too. That's a very good point. You want to keep that updated, have a backup lab, especially as you get close to the actual event, right? We don't need him running, actually, and what we're going to do, and this is what Tony was showing me too, is just, I haven't ever really done this, but just console to all nodes. I was like, yeah, I've seen that in the menu before, never actually tried it. Oh, sometimes in Chrome, you need to... Sometimes the caching will be a little weird. So I'm just going to log out. Usually that takes care of it. Yeah, there we go. All right, my images are going to take a little longer than Tony's did because I'm using the viOS. Yeah, be careful booting all nodes, especially large-scale labs. Yes, very true indeed. You sometimes get this condition where the interfaces are shut down, like administratively shut down. Usually I think that's typical of like the first boot though. As you notice though, guys, this is a 20 CPU box, so it's coasting pretty good. A lot of these routers are already establishing OSPF adjacencies. All right, so that worked. So there we go. That's all there's to it. I've got my multicast, initial multicast ready to go. That was much easier than what that's much faster than the way I did it using the TFTP server, no doubt. Much faster. All right, snapshot's completed. We'll go ahead and do the upgrade. Close the lab. And we will sign out. Close that last tab. Oops. But yes, that is much faster. All right, let's do this upgrade. So we're running on the latest and greatest, correct? Prerequisite internet reachability from your Eve is a must. Yes. Apt auto remove. Okay. Yes. Make sure you have free space. With gas now, land. Be careful not to start any crazy fires. You're smoking now, buddy. Yeah, thanks to my study buddy, and to you guys. Oh yeah, we got plenty available. Yeah, I know I have internet. Apt update. And then apt upgrade. Yes. We'll see if we get this prompt. This may take a little while, which is okay, folks, because while I did want to start the multicast lab tonight, I found, and that's what I want to bring up. I have that here in my agenda to sort of talk about, but I found that I've been using a mix of content studying for multicast. And as you may have seen me mention, I want to go back to the first lab in multicast, the dense mode. I did that one. Then I ran into an issue when I attempted using a tunnel interface, and I was not understanding the outputs, doing the show commands like I needed to. So that told me I need to go back and go back to the books a little bit. So I've done that. Last couple days, I have sort of been in two modes. So like when I'm on a focus time, maybe I have, half hour for lunch. I get into focus mode. I've gone through some network lessons on multicast, Cisco docs, and I've got a couple of Cisco docs here. I'm reading through right now the MFib configuration guide. I thought I had it open, another window. This is really good. And as I'm reading through, of course, anytime I'm doing focus study, learning new things, I'm taking new flashcards. So I have now flashcard, and of course, I take a little time each day to review. It's only 5 new here, but this was my written practice, which cannot be public. This will probably end up being public because, this is for lab practice. I have not sat the lab, so I can objectively say, I don't know if any of this is on the lab or not. But yeah, I've started creating some cards for multicast as I've studied. So that's been very helpful. There is a feedback form here. Oh, I can do this. I did not even try that. Anyway, this is good stuff. So I will probably focus on this evening. And while I let this lab upgrade, okay, this is the one it's talking about. Answer for screenshot above. What do you want to do about configuration file grub? Keep the local currently installed. That and okay. Okay. In other words, don't upgrade grub. And then after reboot your even, we should be good to go. If you get any free time, definitely take a look at Discord random links for NetApp, ONTAP, lab build for clusters. Thank you, mentors. I heard, yeah, there was someone I was talking to who they had run into an issue with NetApp due to some sort of firmware upgrades or something, but reboot. All right, that should upgrade our Eve. Wait for it to come back up. You know what? Oh, that's fine. Snapshot completed. So once it does that, it transfers to a data vault. By the way, folks, and I've mentioned this before, this is probably most clouds, if you shut down the VM from the host operating system, unlike VMware, when you shut it down in the operating system, it communicates back to usually, sometimes it hangs, but you can look in vCenter, and at some point it will show that virtual machine is down. It also does that in Azure. It will show you maybe that it is stopped, but it is not deallocated. Because you could theoretically have some sort of script or an Azure function that goes and starts the operating system on that of that VM. but they're still going to charge you for it. So the only way to really, and you could do this via policy, you could do it via script, you could do it via just hitting the stop button here. But that's what you have to do for it to be stopped and deallocated in Azure. When you do that, the clock stops running. The meter stops running. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've also been doing during non-focus times, folks. Speaking of, studying multicast, when I'm doing chores or something like that, I've been watching the INE videos where possible. But I want to go back to PIM-DENSE. This will probably be Saturday. PIM-DENSE mode with GRE tunnel. And I want to do this lab again. I did it Wednesday, or was it Wednesday? Tuesday. I did it Tuesday, and I could not figure out why it was not working through the tunnel interface. So that's what I'm going to go back to. So how many months have you had the Azure credits? Well, I have these credits through my employer. So I work on a cloud team, and most of you are probably familiar with, they used to call it MSDN subscription, and now it's called the Visual Studio subscription. Well, they may still have an MSDN, I don't know, but I have what's called the Visual Studio subscription. Maybe that was for developers. But that's basically now what comes with like software, and it comes with $150 credits a month for Azure. So I have my own account, I have my own space, and I use it at work for doing proof of concepts or learning Azure things, so that we're not playing. I mean, we have, like a sandbox that we have also for, but that's money that is for the, and I can use that when I need to, but when I'm learning Azure things, or I'm trying to, I'll even do, I have some labs in here that I don't show, but that are for testing routing scenarios on premise too. So I use EvenG for, before I do a change, like there was a change I did last Saturday that involved some BGP, and I actually labbed that up before, not the entire infrastructure, but I labbed it enough to actually find some errors. So they provide me those credits, and they run out after every. So if you don't use them, you lose them at the end of 30 days. No, that is not the same deal as Tony's Google Cloud, but Azure does have a similar deal. Just like Amazon gives you there's some services you can run for free in AWS, that they let you kick the tires, right? Azure does the same thing, but instead of $300, I think they give you $200. So it's less, but obviously Google is trying to catch up to, Azure and AWS, so they have a little more of an incentive there. But you're more likely to run into, at least at this phase, you're more likely to run into the real world, into companies that are using AWS and Azure. So of course, Google is trying to play catch up, and that's good. But a lot of the similar, what I'm finding is through the different cloud architectures, a lot of it is differences in nomenclature and differences in like architectural emphasis. So generally there's not a lot of gaps anymore between, Azure's been trying to catch up with AWS, but and in some areas I would argue they've been ahead, and this is a whole other ball of wax, but Microsoft really appeals to the software as a service in terms of like Office 365 is a big draw, and also a lot of people have licensing contracts already with Microsoft. It's easier to transition to Azure in some cases. Also, what Azure does really well is they have appealed a lot to developers. So you know, people who are developing in C#, people who are developing for all the different Microsoft platforms. Azure has so many tools to make that easier. And so that is a big draw. If you have a big shop, you know, if you have people developing software for Windows or for, you know, basically for Windows clients, you know, in general, or Microsoft SQL or Office integration, things like that, SharePoint, whatever, and you're coding using .NET, Azure has a lot to offer in comparison to AWS in those regards. Yeah, I'm no vendor fanboy myself. Just keep my skills sharp, make myself more marketable. Yeah, I want to learn more about Google Cloud too. In fact, I did, you know, sign up for the deal and get my money. I haven't used it though. All right, this should have restarted, folks. Let's see where we're at. And we may just call it there. Already booted up. I wonder if it's still, I've seen this happen before. And sometimes it happens when after like a, could be caching related. Or it could be like an app is still like the upgrade okay, here we go. So let's boot it up one more time and just see if we got all our configs. Our initial multicast. Okay, all started. And then we will yeah, this definitely does not boot as fast as I will, but it's not too shabby. And once I can confirm that is done, then we will call it a night. I got to get up early and work out tomorrow, folks. Old man hours. Meat chunks. I shared that one already. Also, this is a good article on just basic using GitHub and Networker. Some of the finer, you know, more detailed things about like doing forks and things like that. So good coverage. I tell you, GitHub has become, Git itself has become very important. Okay, good. These interfaces came up. Tunnel came up. OSPF came up. Good. All is well. And then I'm just gonna, you know, shut it down. All right, folks, that is gonna wrap it up. Definitely enjoy the weekend. Gonna be a warm spell, yet cold again and next week, buddy. Yes, Sunday night and Monday is gonna be 30s again. Crazy up down this time of year, right? At least it swings up sometimes. Thank you so much, mentors. Everyone else in the chat, appreciate you hanging out. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will be back in here in this channel, Land Tamer channel, and in this stream, labbing it up on the weekend. So sending good bits to everyone. Again, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and if you have an Amazon Prime account, you know, you get one free Twitch Prime account a month, and you have to renew it every month. Feel free to apply that here if you got it sitting around. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here Saturday on Land Tamer stream.